Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast. Now, what was I talking about? My name is V Noir, and this week I am talking about two films: Best Wishes to All, this Japanese horror film, and as kind of a palate cleanser, K-pop Demon Hunters, that just came out on Netflix like last Friday. Um, both of these movies are really good. Very, very different movies. Um, But to get into, and I kind of feel like I'm gonna just briefly talk about Best Wishes to All. Honestly, I think this is gonna be a shorter episode in general. But to sort of get into Best Wishes to All, a young woman navigates a discovery within her immediate family only to find much more. Like that's kind of the premise. It's about this woman who is like in her early 20s. She is working on getting her nursing degree. And so she's going on a trip to visit her grandparents who live in like this countryside. And she's supposed to go there with her parents, but her younger brother, honestly, they say he has a fever. We don't know who he is until later on, but her younger brother has a fever, so the parents stay. They don't necessarily, later on when they're coming, it seems like they didn't necessarily want to come in general, but basically, my baby is meowing, and now on my lap. Okay, my buddy. Oh, he wants to distract. Oh, my baby boy. My cat. He wants me to scratch his butt. Um, what was I saying? Okay, let me give him his little pets. I'm like, damn, so cute. And there he goes. So, um, we kind of get this ominous foreshadowing of her of essentially what's going to happen because she is, heading off to get on the train to visit her grandparents, and she sees this old woman who is kind of she looks like she could struggle to get across the sidewalk, so this woman is being polite and is like, "Oh, let me help you across the street." And the woman says, "It sucks that us old people have to sacrifice you guys, you young people, for our own happiness." And, the main character is just like, "What?" Um, and so she gets to her grandparents' house, and her grandparents are acting a little weird. She keeps finding them standing and staring at nothing. She's hearing sounds, and the grandma's just like, "Oh, that's nothing. We don't keep anything in that room. It's just a closet." And the woman is just like, what? I'm definitely hearing something. And all of a sudden, while she's sitting down eating dinner, right behind the grandparents, she sees this man crawling on the ground. Uh, and the grandparents are like, "Oh, don't worry about that." And they literally drag him back into the room that she knew she heard sounds from. And she's just like, what?" Not that that's funny, but so she's talking to the neighbor who she knew uh growing up. And also I'm saying she, him, her, and all this stuff because none of these characters have names. Obviously it could be like daughter, granddad, grandfather, grandma, dad, mom, and all this stuff. Um, which I will, but I'm like, they don't really have names actually. Or like I'm like, I know I didn't hear any name drops. So she talks to the neighbor, and um he's someone who's staying in this town to take over his dad's farm after his dad got in an accident, and he just has to help her save this man because he's like, yeah, let's get him out, let's save him. And so at some point we get this like weird, crazy scene where so I was like, oh, these grandparents get freaky because the grandma starts like sucking on the granddad's finger, and I'm like, ugh. I had that reaction because one, it was just weird, but also the granddaughter slash our main character is like under the table while this is happening, so she's like kind of seeing this happen, and I'm like, what's going on? This is a weird scene. This is a weird scene. Um, and so yeah, we get this weird scene where they're able to basically help this man out of this room. He's tied down to this bedpost. His eyes are sewn up, his mouth is sewn up, and she cuts it all open, gets him out of the bedpost, and he gets outside and he's like, wow, outside, sunlight. I haven't, felt the sunlight in so long. So he's like enjoying himself and he's looking around and he's walking down the street, and our main character and the neighbor are walking behind him, and the grandparents are like, no, don't. And then they're walking slowly behind them. And so it's just all these people walking down the street. And at the same time, the parents are coming with their, adolescent son to visit the grandparents. And they're like, what the hell's going on? And of course, I'm just like, obviously, this man is going to get hit by a car. He's got to get hit by a car. Like, we're not having him walk out like this. Um, and he's not going to get hit by a car. Like, that has to happen. And of course, he does. And it was kind of wild because it went from him being real to it being like a digital dummy, essentially like a special effects asset. And I was like, that kind of just made it more comedic than it needed to be. Um, and so, oh, and then so this is when we get the reactions of like everyone kind of being upset with the daughter, of just like, how could you release him? Like, come on. And then the grandparents are talking to the parents and they're like, wait, did you not tell her? And of course, I'm just like, tell her what? Come on, I need to know what's going on. And like the dad and the grandpa kick the body of this man who was tied up in the grandparents' house over and then set that man's body on fire. And um yeah, it's just it was just wild. And they're just like, la di da. And the person who hit him was like, sorry about that. Um and obviously there's this level of not treating this man like he's a person. And it's just funny to me because this essentially feels like The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, literally the short story that I read 2 episodes ago, of like um allowing one person to suffer in order for the happiness of others. Like that's kind of essentially what this movie is. So it turns out that essentially in every home there is a person who is suffering in the stead of everyone else. And we get this repeated throughout the movie of the grandparents asking the main character, like, oh, is she happy? You know? And so that's essentially what's going on. And the daughter was never really told this. And of course, at some point, they're like, no, you knew this was happening. You just didn't want to acknowledge it. And so now they're kind of stuck needing to look for a new person to suffer in their stead, because if the suffering doesn't happen, they'll suffer. And more specifically, they'll get the following symptoms of bleeding out of their orifices, and then it'll be convulsions, and then it'll be laughter. And they already had the youngest boy. He started bleeding out of his eyes. Um, and then everyone else, like the main character, ends up having like bloodshot eyes. And then everybody else is kind of laughing. Um, and then so she discovers at some point through a different neighbor who's just like, don't take any of us. We're all old. Go into the city, find someone new, find someone young. You can do it. You're attractive enough, basically. And she mentions how this has happened before with her dad's older sister. And the older sister was about the main character's age. And so now she goes on this hunt to find her aunt she never knew she had, who's like scratched out of their photos. And she finds her in the woods because the dad's like, either she's in the woods or she's dead. I don't know. Don't know. And then, yeah, so she finds her in the woods and she's kind of off her rocker a little bit, but she's like, no, there's a way to live without having to suffer. But then she kind of goes on this rant about, you know, this is all the Matrix essentially, and you can break away from all of this. No problem, no worries. And yeah, it's just, it, it's wild. And then we get into a scene, and this is like another horrific scene of, because it seems like the main character's just gonna live in the woods with her aunt, and her aunt's like showing her how to chop wood, and she's like, "Yeah, you're doing good. Put in more effort. Do this, do that." But we're seeing the aunt get closer and closer to that axe, and then of course the main character ends up axing her aunt on accident. It's like, oh, okay, you wanted to die, okay, but you didn't want to kill yourself. You'd rather traumatize someone else. I love that. And then after, axing her aunt, she goes into her aunt's hut in the woods and she realizes that her aunt also had someone tied up and suffering. So she truly can't escape this. And she finds her neighbor. Oh, no, no. Before that, there's like a weird dream sequence. And then after that, she's like, I can't go find someone and put them through the suffering. She would rather just sacrifice herself. And there's a scene of her almost like sewing up her own eyes because she's trying to be a martyr and not, put suffering on someone. And then she can't go through with it, and then all of her family members start breaking into laughter and coming after her. And so after this she escapes to her neighbor's house and enters through his like window to find him mourning the loss of his dad who passed away. And then we find out that our neighbor actually never had one of those, like, never had this kind of person suffering in their stead. And he feels miserable and distraught because he feels like there was no way for him to, on his own, with his own strength, get out of their situation. And so there's this whole sequence of him forcing her to strangle him and basically kind of giving up on life and, becoming an artist and all this stuff. Because we find out through the dad previously that he is a painter. And essentially, he sacrifices himself to save her because she starts convulsing. So we know she's about to near death, essentially. And she, while, not wanting to strangle him, ends up starting laughing too. And she drags him back to the grandparents' house after the grandma gave birth. That was a weird movie. That was a weird thing because I was like, she wasn't pregnant, and within a day she gave birth. I'm confused and concerned. There's like a lot of lore here, and I don't know what's going on. And yeah, it's a film. um but yeah, so she brings the her neighbor back. They tie him up, they sew him up. She's also a part of this process now. And I think, she's fully accepted that this is the way to live. And like, unlike the ones who walk away from Omelas, in that short story, there isn't really a justification for allowing this one person to suffer. In that, if they save this person, that means they would suffer. And I'm like, okay, so this movie kind of goes a step further and is like, you have to cause the suffering of this one person or else you'll die. So it's like this whole back and forth, or you'll live a miserable life like the neighbor, right? So you're kind of forced to do this, or you die, basically. I'm like, well, I don't really like that. I'm like, that's just depressing. So I was like sitting with this movie because I was like, what? Because it kind of ends with her a little bit older. She's getting married. She dresses nicer. She's looking around. She sees some woman in a house. Maybe that woman in the house is in the room with the guy that's being tortured for her sake. And the husband asked, like, oh, what are you smiling about? And she's just like, I'm just so happy. And then it ends. I'm like, oh no, you've fallen for it. You're a part of the system. And I don't know. I kind of had to sit with it because I was like, this is this is depressing. I mean, yes, it's a horror movie, of course. Like, there's definitely some horrific stuff that happens. But I was like, oh, this is just a depressing film. And it seemed like, she wanted to not do what she ended up doing, but accepted it. I'm like, I don't know if I like that. Um, and so a few days later, I ended up watching K-pop Demon Hunters. Now, when this was first coming out, I thought it was a new show, which I was like, oh, that's gonna be kind of fun. Was a little disappointed to find out it was a movie, but um, it still ended up being like really, really good. And I was like, I kept seeing people talk about it on like Twitter and Instagram posts, and I was like, I'm gonna finally watch this. Fine, let me be a part of the conversation. And so this is basically about a group of girls who are part of a K-pop group called the um, Huntrix. There we go. I was like, come on, let's remember. um, they're called the Huntrix, and they're actually they basically use their secret identities as demon hunters to protect their fans um, from, you know, demons and the Demon King. And so we find out in the very beginning that there is just this sort of history of these women who come together and they use the power of music and the power of the collective through music to power the Hanmun, which is this barrier that stops demons from coming into our world and stealing souls. And so we're all like sort of interconnected, and it's this love for music, the love for the groups that kind of fuels it. And I think that more has to do with just like being a collective and in tune with nature and the Hanmoon. Um, that gets it going. So like everybody's on the same page, which is interesting when we see the opposite kind of happen. And I mean, like everybody on the same page about something bad. And that's like kind of later on in the movie. And I'm like, yeah, if you're listening to this, you've already had spoilers for Best Wishes to All, and now you're gonna have spoilers for KPop Demon Hunters because when I start yapping, I'm gonna keep going and you're gonna get spoiled. So come into my podcast knowing you're gonna get spoiled. That's like I don't know what to say. That's that's why I'm here. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm gonna talk about. And yeah, so this generation, and it was so fun looking at how they did it because I was like, oh, that's like the very classic uh like uh honestly the animation in this film was really great. The this person that I follow, whose name is escaping me right now. I don't know why I want to call her Coco. Her name is not Coco. Um she was known as the laundry addict. The laundry addict? The lingerie addict. And her, oh my gosh. I know I just liked it. These are gonna be a lot of pauses to edit out later on. Oh my god, okay. Thankfully I went to Twitter and just came across her Instagram, but her name is Cora Harrington. She just finished up this program, like a fashion historian and archival program. And like, ooh. So she was making a point to say that the textures of clothing in this film were really, really well rendered and really, really well done. Like it was easy for her to tell what the animation was supposed to um portray fabric wise. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I mean, it was one of those things that I saw that I hadn't seen the movie, but I'm like, oh, that's cool that they put all this effort into it. And then because Twitter is Twitter, it's like running into different people posting about I worked on this part of the film and I did this part of the film and here's some early illustrations and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, this seems really cool. And I'm like, ah, damn, I'm like, damn, okay, maybe I'll watch this. Fine, maybe I'll watch this. And I finally did. I'm like, oh, okay, this is good. I understand why everybody loves it. And I was seeing like the derpy tiger, and I'm like, oh, what's this cute thing? And I'm like, oh, what's the cute bird with the hat? The three-eyed bird with the hat? What is that? Got it. I want to know. I want to know. And I was just on Twitter reading people's like headcanons and stuff. Somebody's like, "Oh, there's definitely gonna be a sequel because the honeymoon didn't turn gold." I'm like, "Yeah, technically it didn't, but they were able to seal it up again." Well, actually, if you think about it, they had to create a whole new one. So what if the constraints around this one is that it didn't need to turn gold? But either way, to get into the story, we are following Rumi, Zoe, and Mira, who are this new generation's uh, it girls and also demon hunters. And they are a part of Huntrix as a trio. And we start off right off the bat with a song. And I'm like, yeah, this is a musical. It has to be. I'm like, it's called K-pop Demon Hunters, and like there has to be K-pop, and it's really cool because producers like Teddy are behind this, and he's done a lot of like Blackpink. I mean, he was exclusively working under JYP Entertainment. I mean, oh my god, I'm mixing up so many things. He was under YG Entertainment. I think because I've been getting into JYP, like Got Seven, Stray Kids, and the fact that some of the songs are done are performed by Twice, which is a JYP group. I'm like, okay, JYP is just in my head. That man, how old is that man? Now that I think about it. Because I'm like, he's got one of those faces where he kind of just looks like I think he just looks stern. I was gonna say he looks like he's old. He's always been old. But no, no. Oh, okay. He's 53. He's gonna be 54 this year. I know he was in a group in the 90s, and then from that he created his own company essentially. But I'm like, this man still sings and dances and choreographs and stuff. I'm like, he's got a lot of energy. But I think also because I was young and he just looked older, I was thinking of him as being old. I'm like, no, 54 isn't that old actually. Like he was in his 20s in the 90s. So yeah, that's not that old. And like looking at him now, he's like, no, he doesn't look that old actually. I think I'm just silly. But yeah, it is one of those things where you like when you're very young, someone 20, 30 years older than you is just going to look and feel old. And then, you grow up and you're like, oh no, they're not actually. They're not old at all. Like that's crazy. Like I'm going to be 32 this year and I'm like, oh, this man is actually very young looking. I don't know. I don't know why I thought he was old. I don't know. That's crazy. God, what the hell? Oh, because I mixed up Teddy being in JYP for some reason, and like, no, he's not he wasn't a part of JYP. He was definitely a part of YG Entertainment and produced like the majority of the music done through YG Entertainment. He was a part of his own band group one time. And I'm like, I don't think he's done his own music since like that G Dragon song, The Leaders, that he made with Teddy, CL, and himself, and they were all it's called that because they're all leaders of their respective groups, you know, CL being the leader of 2NE1 and G Dragon being the leader of Big Bang, and I'm assuming Teddy being the leader of One Time. Anyway, so yeah, we start the movie off with a song. Of course, the girls are headed to their concert, which is like their farewell. Not farewell, but it was like they were doing a world tour. This is their last leg in that, and then they plan on going on a hiatus. And so it was like the last leg of that, and they're like, la la la. They're on a plane, of course, and the plane is hijacked by demons, of course. And so then this is when they get into their song, how it's done, which, oh, it's so catchy. A lot of these are really good. And so they are going to take their hiatus, but while they're performing how it's done, which it's so funny because they're in this airplane. I'm also like, I don't want to think too much about real world stuff, but I was like, all these demons were not piloting the plane. They split the plane in half and everything, and the plane's falling, and the girl's supposed to go on, and yeah, it's like the plane is like falling and crashing and stuff, and they're falling out of the sky and everything, and it's just like, wait a minute, that didn't fall into nothing. But I'm also like, this is a movie, this is animated. Let's not think about the real world repercussions. It's not trying to do that. It's not like how the boys um thinks about or explores the idea of like the literal fatality and destruction of material wealth, I guess. I don't know why I can't just say buildings. The destruction of buildings in the real world if these people, superpowered people, were running around trying to stop bad guys, and they're destroying all this shit. It's like there's gonna be human collateral damage that is gonna come from that. Uh, so it's like, yeah. So they're falling from the sky, and this kind of ends up being like how they enter the stadium, which was a really cool moment. There's a lot of really cool visuals in this movie, as well as really cool fight choreography. They do a lot of fun stuff uh with just animating in general, with like their facial expressions and stuff. And you can tell these girls are very tight knit and close because I took a break, took a breather, and I am back again. Don't remember what I was saying, of course. And I'm gonna get back into this plot. So they released the song Golden because they think the whole moon is this close to being complete, which means that no demons ever. And oh, that's what I was saying. So you know that they're really good friends because they're able to just be in their pajamas, make crazy faces, and gorge themselves on junk food and stuff. And they're excited to just enjoy their couch during their break. And then, of course, Rumi releases Golden, their new track, and it's like, back to work. No more of this. And Golden's a really good song too. And then all of a sudden, we see the demon realm, and the demon king is like, ugh, what are we gonna do? And there's this guy, Junni, and oh wait, no, Jinnu. I was remember I'm dyslexic. And I was misremembering his name. Jinnu. Uh he comes out singing a song. And he's like, what if we use the thing that gives them power against them? And so he decides to create a K-pop boy group named the Sasha Boys. And I'm like, this is wild. This is too much. And then so they make this boy group, and they run into the girls because at this point, Rumi is running into some issues with her voice. And uh yeah, they run into the boys, and it's such a typical K-drama moment of like slow motion, this specific type of music playing in the background. And I was like, oh, this is so good. This is so good. And oh my God. I'm like I'm also like reading the Netflix article that's breaking down all the songs. And they're saying that the soda pop is kind of in the style of the BTS song Butter. I'm like, yeah, so it's very, very catchy. I mean, I definitely enjoyed the Huntrix songs a lot more than the Soulja Boy songs. Um, also, somebody had pointed out that that a character is important when Genu is the only one that has like an actual name, and everybody else is just like a an idea. So the other guys are named Romance, Abs, Baby, and Mystery. And apparently Abs is voiced by ProZD. And like I love this. The voice acting cast is fantastic for this movie. The music's great, the animation's great. I do wish that it had a theatrical release, because oh my god, the way this would have been like sold out, the way this would have been, it would have made a lot of money essentially. But I guess this is like a weird partnership between Sony and Netflix, because this is a Sony animation film, and it's like, they did the Spider-Verse movies, and I want to say they did the recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. Let me see. Oh, it was done by Paramount? No, that doesn't make sense. It was Nickelodeon. Okay, no. Okay, Paramount Pictures distributed it. Nickelodeon Movies and Point Grey Pictures are the production company behind it. Oh, it did pretty well in the box office. That's pretty nice. I'm like, I want more original animated stuff. I'm like, sure, technically Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has been around for a while, but like decades. But just like more fun stuff, more original stuff. I'm so glad that they're getting the Wile E. Coyote movie out of whatever hell that they put it in because that movie was done. They were ready to release it, and then Warner Brother Max, whatever the fuck, was like, no, put it away. We need that money back. We need to do a tax write off. And I'm like, fuck you guys. I know it's gonna be like a live action movie too. And I'm like, we haven't really done live action cartoon movies in like forever. And I'm also like, the Muppets are in whatever hell as well. I think, was it Netflix? Anyway, I can't figure this out. So I'm like, I swear it was Netflix, but Disney owned them. I want to say they don't anymore, but Disney had them in hell for whatever reason. I'm like, no, everybody should be doing, like, I think people were wanting like a Sabrina Carpenter Miss Piggy collab, and I'm like, yeah, there should be Muppets like everywhere. Like I feel like they were everywhere in my childhood, even though I wasn't necessarily into the Muppets or Sesame Street or anything as a child. Like I don't really remember being all that in love with them. But I love puppetry now. And like I love the art of puppetry. And Jim Henson and the Muppets have such a distinct look with like the needle felted look and like just they just look so well done. And I appreciate it now. And even thinking of Big Bird and how there's a man in that and the mouth is just a hand. I'm like the dedication and work behind the Muppets and puppeteering and everything. I'm like, it's just such a crazy, amazing art form. And I'm like, I love it now. I love doll making now and everything. I'm like, I would love to make a ball jointed doll version of myself. My friend made a doll of me basically, but like also with cat ears. And I'm like, oh, that's so cute. It came out really well. And yeah, to get back into the movie. So now the Saja boys are essentially in competition with the Huntrix girls and because they're men, they're attractive. Everybody's falling in love with them and being obsessed with the new song Soda Pop. And that is causing the Hanmun to become disrupted and it's more holy and there's more demons coming in. And also because of the Saja Boys and the popularity of Soda Pop, people now they're able to get souls as well. The demons are able to get souls now too. So this K-pop demon boy band concept is obviously working. And now on the flip side of this, we have Rumi dealing with her losing her voice. And we're finding out as the audience that she actually has the same sort of pattern as the demons. But she's not full demon, she's half demon. Her mom died, and her dad was a demon. We don't know the full story, but we do know that she was taken in by one of the members of the girl group that her mom was a part of. So she's sort of uh grandfathered into the demon hunting, essentially. And the woman who is now like her mother figure, parental figure, has basically told her to hide away these, I was gonna say scars, but a scar is there. Honestly, they look like kind of cool tattoos. I would definitely see people doing this as a tattoo. I'm very excited to see people do cosplays of the characters as well. I'm like, ooh, I want to see that. Now I'm like Halloween, Halloween. But yeah, so she's definitely the Celine. This is the name of her. I was like, I don't remember her name. So Celine's kind of told her to hide away, and it's kind of like a I don't know, like I don't know, it's just messed up. So this is kind of preventing Rumi to fully embrace herself and embrace her voice. And I'm like, I have to read his name so I don't mess it up. Jinu, he finds out about her having patterns, and she's like a hunter who's also a demon. And she's like, no, I'm not a demon, I swear. And also he's like, wait, you don't hear the voice in your head, which is the Demon King. The Demon King uses these voices. He uses intrusive thoughts to control all the demons. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that does feel demonic. I'm like, yeah, I hate intrusive thoughts, man. But I don't let my intrusive thoughts win. I also like, it was kind of weird when that was like kind of trendy, like letting your intrusive thoughts win and everybody being like, that's not intrusive thoughts. You have, like, that's either schizophrenia or like, something silly, like people are like, "Oh, letting my intrusive thoughts win," and it's like them eating ice cream, and it's like, no, intrusive thoughts are like you all of a sudden being like, "Oh, let's just jump off this bridge," or if you're driving, let's drive off a bridge. Like that's an intrusive thought. That's not. It's definitely not something that's like really tame. And so he through the really cute derpy tiger. I love that tiger. And the bird, he sends her messages to meet up with her. And the Demon King actually sends him on a mission to sort of find out, what shame, basically find out her weaknesses. And I'm like, you can tell he doesn't necessarily want to do that, but he also wants to forget his memories and his emotions, the thing that kind of, was his soul, and also the thing that humanizes him. He wants that taken away because the Demon King is kind of using it to guilt him anyway. So there's kind of this back and forth with them, and it's like there's like the fun stuff of like, oh, the fan culture is non-existent in this universe because there would be so many things about people seeing them on dates secretly and sending vans to the companies, and then like the idols having to apologize for even daring to date. I'm like, God damn. Again, this is why I keep coming in and out of K-pop because I'm like, this shit, like the fandom is really not that great, and I'm like, these people are not really treated that well, either within the company or by the fans sometimes. And yes, that's a part of idolizing someone, but it's like these people are people and they deserve to date and spend time with their family, being able to walk around normally without being harassed. Because I'm like, ah, that sucks. And I'm like, does fame really have to come with all that? Like, Jesus. Either way, to kind of, because I do only need to do this for like, this does need to be a quick one. So to kind of sum it up, he does end up finding out that, her shame comes around no one knowing about her being a half demon, especially the girls that she's in a group with. And that's what's preventing her from singing fully. And he ends up turning against her and sending two fake versions of the girls to then sing this takedown song that they were making together. And they kind of end up fighting She's fighting them. And it looks like the group breaks up. And then, of course, they're afraid of her because they do see the markings that, are demon markings. And they don't know what to believe. They think they've been lied to. And then all of a sudden, everyone, because of this, the Saja boys basically win because there is like a festival going on. But they win in general because now everyone is entranced by this song that they made and they're coming together to the stadium. And the Demon King is now here on Earth. And it's basically a time for them to take all these souls essentially and honestly just take over Earth. And we get a scene of Rumi talking to Celine about all of this happening. And she's like, if I have to hide who I am for this honeymoon to be fully formed, then I don't want to do what I'm doing. Like, I shouldn't have to hide away. Like, I shouldn't feel shame about this. And, then she's able to find her voice because she's able to fully embrace herself. And I do love this song that they make because she was having a hard time creating the takedown song because again she's hiding this part of herself from them and uh they're talking about taking down anything with these markings because it's ugly and all this stuff and this is a reason she can't sing properly because she's like that means that I should be taken down, I shouldn't exist. And so what it sounds like is the song that she creates because she's like this is me fully as I am. This is what I finally sound like, embracing my whole self. And the other girls are entranced, but because they hear Rumi's voice, they break out of that trance and then they start singing together. And they're able to wake everyone up and unite everyone against the Demon King. And Jinnu saves Rumi from the Demon King's attack. He sacrifices himself and he's like you were able to make me find my soul and give me hope and set me free. I was like, oh, so good. We're gonna cry. And and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, again, this is why I do like K-pop because there are these like um sort of hype songs and inspirational songs that do exist within the genre and I'm like, yeah, this is K-pop. This is the good stuff. This is what I like. Um and I'm like, now damn, I gotta get into Twice now because these vocals are hitting. And yeah, so now the girls are together, they're reunited, they defeated the Demon King, it's gone, all these demons are gone. Technically the honeymoon isn't golden, but like I was saying, this is a completely new honeymoon. So they might not. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a sequel. Maybe that'll get a theatrical release too. But either way, I really really enjoyed it. I want to listen to the soundtrack. They already released like Huntrix merch and Saja Boy merch, which is hella funny. And they made a plush of the derpy tiger, and I'm like, oh, that tiger's so cute. And yeah, I'm gonna end it there. Um, Still continuing like my horror movies sort of marathon for every episode leading up to Halloween. I don't know what I'm gonna watch next though, but we'll see. I didn't see anything in theaters that I want to watch. There is Lurker that I wanted to watch, but that's coming out in August, I think. And there's that movie about kids, Weapons. That's coming out I think in a few weeks too. July, I think. That I'm probably gonna catch too. So those are at least theatrical releases that are of thriller horror movies that I'm probably gonna catch and talk about in the next coming months. But otherwise, that will be all. Definitely check out the pod archive website at nwwitapod.com. Find me on Instagram and TikTok under V_noir, and that's noir with an E at the end. And I'll see y'all next week. Bye.